This is Musa with More Football STL, and today we have a very exciting day. A legend of media, yes, I said it, a legend, from our friend from the other side, Kevincho. We'll probably won't start too much trouble, but how are you doing today?
Good. Yeah, no, hey, listen, doesn't matter what team you support, okay? Doesn't we're not look, MLS is not there quite yet for us to never speak to each other, Maybe a few
Okay.
years down the road. But no, I'm excited. I love talking to all different fans and I love what you've been doing recently, especially. So yeah, I've been excited, ready to go. We had this planned for a little bit, then we couldn't do it, so it's cool to finally get this done, get this
Yeah,
going.
and I think for us it's almost a little bit different because
Yeah.
I think the Kansas City St. Louis thing, it's almost like the last piece of
Yeah.
hatred that we could have for each other.
Yeah.
Because now I'm starting to realize that first we have France and Argentina that is most recent,
More recent, yeah, right?
and those are my almost my most hated video of yours because you keep showing that World Cup dancing, chanting.
It's almost there. We're almost there. Look, 2 more years and then I'll stop.
Yes, it's still tearing me apart
Yeah,
every time
right.
I see it. And
Sure.
then now I recently found that you're Liverpool
That's right.
and I'm Chelsea.
Nah,
There's
come
another
on.
one.
At least you're not united or something. Yeah, but okay, Chelsea, fine. Sure.
And then we add St. Louis and
Right.
Kansas City to top it off.
Yeah, sure.
And we
That's
still
okay.
talk. So that
Hey,
says a lot.
yes, it says a lot. Look, I think we got close because, like, I think France, Argentina, that's just new. I don't think we're
Yeah.
like old rivals. Chelsea and Liverpool. I think if I was an Arsenal fan, it would be more. I think you would hate me a little bit more. And then the Sporting St. Louis. We just got started, so we're fine. We're all right. Not too bad.
Yes. And I would say our rivalry, I
Uh
guess
huh.
I'll say it's been the most interesting one I've seen in the MLS because I
Yeah.
think it just happened so quickly.
Yes. Very quickly. Yes.
Also, perfect. So yeah, so for those that have been living under a rock or have no access to the internet, could you give them a little bit of who Kevin
Yeah.
is?
Yeah. Well, just a quick
Quick.
synopsis.
Yes.
I was born in Argentina, moved to Kansas as a kid, so I was like, I grew up watching just Argentinian football for forever, and then got into MLS around 2011 when Sporting moved into their own stadium. They got
Mhm.
their own. It looked like a real team at the time. I had no idea they even existed, and ever since then, I just kind of became a Sporting fan. Over time, you start learning more about the city, the culture, the history of the game, and whatnot. And then I turned it into. I've always liked video editing, and I always loved being in front of a camera. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to talk about sporting in some way. So it started out with like watch alongs, and I still do those, and I do little highlights and stuff like that. But a weird mix. But and it got me into this position where I get to talk to fans that I never, knew even existed, or got to talk to people like you who are with a new team coming in. Like a while ago, it was like the Austin fans, and now it's the St. Louis fans. So it's been a really cool ride to just see all the new people come in, and then everyone talk about their football background or soccer background. So yeah, that's basically what I do. Just talk footy, scream a lot from time to time. Yeah, that's it.
But I did see though that this was not your first entry to making videos.
Yeah.
So could you tell us, I guess, a little bit of what got you into?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so in high school, I wanted to go to a film school. Was like that
Yeah.
was the dream, was to actually work in film. And in high school, I felt like I didn't want to go into, college not knowing anything about
Mhm.
anything at all. So I thought, okay, I'll make a YouTube video and or channel and start learning how to edit, just slowly over time. That turned into, I had some friends that were like up and coming artists that wanted me to edit their music videos. So then I learned how to, deal with music and editing and filming. I started filming them. And then that turned into like using it for freelance. So even when I was in college, I was editing my own videos. I had a channel where I just kind of changed the vibes all the time. It went from like vlogging to like short documentaries, all types of stuff. And then I started working with other creators, large creators.
Okay.
Some of them slowly became large creators, which was really cool. So you can kind of see what they did and what they did that was good and what was wrong and whatever to get to where they're at. And I learned a lot. So it's been like almost 10 years. In April would be 10 years of me like editing videos in some way, which is really fun to just kind of like go back. Because I mean, even 3 years ago, my stuff is like completely different. But that's like the usual thing for most content creators. Like every year, if you just look back, you can see how much you changed. But yeah, and then slowly I got into football, soccer creation because I always loved the game. I'm always around it, and I never could find a way to like mix the two. And then MLS kind of gave me that opportunity where I was like, there's not that many people doing this right now at the time. And now, even a year or 2 years later, now it's like completely different. Now there's way more people, which is really awesome. Like, that was the point, was like, it felt weird that we didn't have that many people. I know we're a young league and whatever, but it's like, come on, this is a US. We got ballers out. We
There's
got
plenty.
video
Yes.
editors, Photoshop guys, graphic designers. Like, we could really do this, and now seeing it happen is really cool.
Nice. I can definitely see from all your videos and editing that maybe you're the superstar now, but it looks like it took many years to perfection
Yeah,
that part.
sure. Yeah, a lot of people always ask, like, because really in MLS, I popped up a year and a half ago. Like,
Yes.
before that, I didn't have. So people were just kind of like, did MLS just create this guy or something like that? I was like, no. It's like, I've been in so many different things, and for like a year and a half, especially during COVID, I was just editing for other people. Like, I was never in front of a camera. Larger creators would just tag me in their description. That was the only time you ever heard my name. But yeah, now it's completely different for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's the one of the reason why I was asking is that just giving you also your flowers, because you're almost one of those guys that I've looked up to, even though I'm probably much older than you. But I
Yeah.
definitely looked up to you and others, from the Austin TV guys, to how to kind of help bring
Sure.
some of that energy from St. Louis. Knowing that, we'll say we're a big city, but
Yeah.
the soccer community is so small here
Sure.
that, if you would have asked me a year ago if I would be in front of a camera talking,
Yeah.
I would have just punched you and run.
Yeah,
'Cause
for real.
that is not me.
Yeah.
So soccer has definitely brought that up, and now getting to talk to you. The fun part is, you lived in Kansas City. I also lived in Kansas City,
Ooh,
and
right.
I lived in Gladstone, Missouri, which
Okay,
is
yeah.
literally
Right
right
out
where
there.
the current new stadium.
Yep.
It's literally 5 minutes from my old high school.
No way. That's so
Yeah,
cool. Wow. That's
so it's
awesome.
like
You know.
a guy from Kansas City. So we missed each other for maybe
Yeah, we just
15 years
missed.
or so.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and I think seeing you and having all of those new people coming up, it's definitely, you're like the standard, we'll call it,
Ah, thank you.
of social media. So definitely have to give you your flowers for
Thank you.
that.
Thank you.
It's,
No, yeah. And I
eh,
mean, I've seen you go through, just talking, not really in front of a camera to where you are now,
yeah,
and you just getting started. This is like the year and a half ago where I slowly got in, and now when you're almost at 2 years in, you start figuring out what you like to do. Because even like for a while, I was like, I kind of want to do like a podcast, like a real talk, sit down. But then it didn't feel like my thing, so I just stopped. But other people, they start in watch alongs and they don't feel like that's their thing. Then they get into
yep,
podcasting and they get to talk to more people, stuff like that. So it's cool. You get to learn over time what you're like into. So I'm excited for you. You got plenty of
yeah.
time.
And I think you're probably the most content creator from all of the teams
Whoa,
that like
settle
you.
down, settle
I,
down. Those are big
oh,
words.
I, from what I've seen, and
Sure.
I do listen to other podcasts, and definitely, the Kevin, you still have that neutral
Sure.
conversation.
Right. Yeah.
Hey,
That's
if
a
us
that's a
St.
big
Louis
compliment. Thank
folks,
you.
if us St. Louis folks don't hate you that much, I don't see how other teams could.
Right.
Right?
True. Okay. That's a good point. That is a good. I mean, I don't have any. I kind of feel the same way because
Yeah.
I don't have any ML or St. Louis content creators, and I'm like, I can't stand this
Mhm.
person. It's like hard. It would take a lot for me to get to that point, but I think the best way for any tips, if anyone wants to know tips, is if you take. I mean, okay, if you zoom out, especially you already know this because you're not really you're American like me, but
Mm,
you grew up around the game with different countries, so you can see different
yes.
lenses. But with some people, if you just focus just on MLS and take it just too seriously, I could see where you might hate other creators or just want to, go against them. But there's no point if you look at it like it's a joke. All right, you got me this week, fine, I'll get you
Mhm.
next week or whatever it is. It's easier that way. I think there's also a fine line. If there's people that are spewing hate, then of course,
Right.
But a little banter here and there, never hurt anyone. Just from time to time.
Uh, And, and that's what makes it fun, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty much just like when we were playing on the field. It's like you step on our white line. I completely hate you. I will
Right.
tackle you. Take your leg out. You passed it again. Shake hands. Go
Good
get a
game.
drink and
Move on.
okay.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a great way of putting it. I think a lot of the younger the newer guys that are like getting into the game completely, might not get that. But over time, you start to because things get repetitive. Like after a
Yeah.
couple seasons, you're like, all right,
Same jokes.
it's the same thing. Exactly. You're starting to hear the same jokes, starting to hear the same stuff, which gets kind of old. So it's just fun to mix it up and just kind of be cool. Because the best thing is away games, you don't want to just go in a stadium and not know anybody or be completely hated. It'd be nice to kind of learn how the atmosphere is like and how your team is different than my team or whatever. So I think that's a good thing. And I was surprised because I think even after the playoffs last year, I saw plenty of sporting fans and I almost said RSL, St. Louis fans,
Uh
because that was a whole other thing. But
oh.
I saw a lot of like St. Louis fans and sporting fans just kind of be cool again. Once it was over, it was like, all right, that was fun. Let's do it again. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yes, and circle back on that, the stadium and going to the away games. I definitely saw that even when I started to put some announcement that I might go to Cincinnati.
Oh
There's
yeah,
still people reaching out. I say, hey, yeah, stop by, and I think that's where you build some of that relationship with those genuine people.
yes, for sure.
From yes, awesome. So from Kansas City, then since you started to kind of create content for Kansas City,
Yeah,
so was that like a gradual, hey, I'm going to just do one video at a time, or was it, you know,
yeah.
this it going to be my
It
niche?
it started so really like a year before. So in 2021, I had this completely other channel where I got into like documentaries. It was more like serious, and the Copa America was coming. And in my mind, I was like, okay, this is probably and at that time, it was kind of rumored that either that tournament or the World Cup would be Messi's last. So in my head, I was like, okay, well, this might be Messi's last Copa America. I'll watch it, and it'd be kind of fun to do a watch along. So I made a separate account, completely
Okay.
separate. And I thought I'll do a watch along and see if anyone comes in. What surprised me was like so many people just around the world because it's like a big national team and Messi, whatever. There were people coming in the comments and just talking. Like I had a guy from Germany that would stay up. I don't even know what time to watch the games with me and just chat. That shocked me. There was guys from France, people from England, and we were just hanging out. And I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. And then once the Copa America ended, I was like, well, what? I'm gonna wait until the World Cup. That's like too far, and I feel I want to do it again. And in the middle of that, I was doing an MLS breakdown of the things that bothered me about MLS and things that
Yeah.
kind of annoyed me for a while. And in the middle, I wanted some B-roll of just other clubs. I just wanted fans because,
Yeah.
as you know, and everyone knows in content, there's a fine line with copyright. And back then, Fox Soccer was like the big one, or ESPN. So if you try to pull content, your copyright struck,
Yep.
you have all
All
these
the way.
issues. So I was like, you know what? I'll just get B-roll from fans, and I could not find anything. I asked my sporting friends. I was like, hey, can you guys point me to like a watch along guy for sporting? And like every single one said no. And then that's where I was like, all right, what the hell is happening? Sporting's one of the first team. It's like one of the original teams, and how do we not have a watch along guy and all this stuff? And then I started learning there's like not a lot in MLS or that many content creators for teams specifically. So then I was like, okay, I'll try a game and see how it goes. Well, the first game, it was like Sporting versus Columbus Crew. It was 0-0. There was a weather delay. I was sitting here by myself because nobody knew who I was or what I was doing. I didn't even promote it. I just went live and just sat there. So it was a good 3 hours of me talking to myself. That was my first watch along for MLS. After that ended, I was like, I don't know if I want to do that again. Like I was just thinking that was a nightmare. So then I just did it one last time, thinking like, all right, that was a weather delay. That was a weird game. And then the next time, I think we got murdered by Portland or something. Like, I think it was the 7-1 game or 7-2, whatever it was.
That's tough.
And yeah, that game I like lost. I was like, I couldn't believe what I was watching. And it was a long time since I watched multiple MLS games all the way through. Cause for a while I just kind of gave up and just looked at the score after the game. And that's where like more people found me. And then that's where things started going. But I don't know if that's a lesson of like, don't give up or whatever. But
And sure, it's
it,
100% don't give up.
I really think that just sometimes it's luck, but then sometimes it's like just keep going. I got very lucky that the next game was like this annoying game for me, but
Right.
I know a lot of people that like give up after a season, or a lot of writers, journalists that cover the team. They're like, well, no one read my stuff. You have no idea. This like the next thing could have happened. St. Louis signs like Dybala. Imagine, and then you guys get all these people paying attention at St. Louis. And then you gave up, and guess what? You don't have that rapport anymore. So yeah, I don't know. It got really lucky for that game, I guess. But and it just started like 2 seasons of like nightmare, games for Sporting, and yeah, and then you guys came the last season, which again was more nightmare for us, and it was just like, God, dude, I couldn't catch a break, but it helped in the long run, I guess.
So did you like break news to us? You said signing Dybala? Is that what I
Dude,
just heard?
hey, listen. I would actually
Oh,
cry if St. Louis gets Dybala, dude. Like that would end it for me. That'll be my last day. But I'm interested to see what St. Louis does, because obviously you had a player go to Italy, Serie B, which is a
yes.
big deal, and in Serie B we had Buzio go out there too, who played for Sporting, and he's doing well right now. I think those are good steps, and it's like that's a good thing for you guys, even though he's a good player. Um,
You are.
but that
Yes.
opens up spaces. It's interesting to see what you guys are going to do, or your club could be kind of like what some other clubs are doing, where you might
Mhm.
get some guys in right now, maybe, but wait for the summer. That's obviously, we all know summer
That's
transfer.
right.
That's where everything gets crazy. That's where everyone's ready to move. I don't know if that's what Sporting's do. I don't even know if we're gonna make any moves, but
Yeah.
that's what you
So
hope.
that's what I was going to ask you next. Is like
Yeah.
you're seeing a lot of teams and like the established team, like LA Galaxy just signed a new one, and you start
Right.
to see Colorado. You start seeing
Yeah.
Colorado, knowing that they have not spent money. Cronky
Right.
does not spend money, and then all of a sudden he's
Boom.
splurging,
Yeah.
and Cincinnati is like stacking up to already a awesome season they had, which almost annoyed the entire MLS.
Yes, for
But
sure. Yeah.
so how do you feel about almost the non-movement from
Yeah.
Kansas City, or so quiet?
I think. See, the thing is, like, I feel half and half. You mentioned a good thing, because Colorado got, they're getting signing, and the joke was always like their owners are stingy and they don't spend
Yep.
money. And then the other thing that everyone always says is like it's so hard to sign big players in the Midwest, because obviously, I mean, if you could choose an East Coast or West Coast, you most
Yeah.
likely would before going to the Midwest. But what makes me really nervous about Sporting is, at least, like, for example, like if you look at St. Louis right now, there's so many things that are right with what you guys are doing, like atmosphere wise, stuff like that. That could be attractive alone, because then it could be like a big name player comes to your city, let's pretend, and that would be like their team. They would be the big name. They could be the face of the organization. When you go to like, LAFC, where they're signing 3 guys at a time, it looks like. It might not feel that way. Plus, you're in Los Angeles. There's much more, bigger names out there. Whatever. I don't know. I feel half and half. I with Sporting, I've always felt like, with how Peter runs it and how things go, we're not like the flashy club, which is so annoying, especially now. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's always hard to sign players to come to the Midwest. That being said, it looks like because of the guys that are jumping into the East Coast and West Coast teams, we might steal their I guess seconds,
Yes.
their other guys. So that's kind of great, because these guys are still good quality players that we're getting. We're not getting like, we're all potentially not going to get like super old players just because they have a big name. So yeah, I mean, fundamentally, Sporting, St. Louis, all these Midwest teams, they might not be able to compete with big names, but we're kind of like like the Saudi Arabias of like a World Cup, where you have underdog, not big names, but a good squad, hopefully, with a good coach. So, and St. Louis showed that last year, like most of the season, no big names. You guys had, I think your keeper was like your biggest name.
Yeah,
Um,
he
yeah,
was.
that's a baller there. So but that's it. It's not like you guys had some legends or whatever that had to help you guys. So yeah, I think this season I'm waiting for the summer. If
Okay.
we get nothing in the summer, boy, it's gonna be a long season for Sporting. Trust me. But that's just how I'm feeling at the moment, currently.
That's fair enough. I will say from what I've seen so far, on like the big purchases. So it shows, like the big market teams are making it. Um, Even though it looks like Cincinnati is now becoming one, it looks.
Right?
I don't know if it's their sporting directors that have the good connections to be able
Sure.
to make it. I think for our, for the Midwest team, from what I've seen, is like, Europe are talking now about the MLS.
Yeah.
So it looks like there's like those, I'll call them three tiers of players.
Yeah.
The top tier, if they're sort of older, that's LA, New York.
Hmm.
That's all they know about.
Right.
But it's starting to see like, the northern countries, they're starting to look at MLS as the stepping ground to,
Yes.
hey, if I come over here, I make some noise, I can go back to Europe to a second division or even third.
Sure.
And MLS is starting to make some of
Yeah.
that noise. Definitely, I can see
Oh
that.
yeah, and plus with their name, I mean, even guys. So you probably know more about the Europe side, but the South America side, they're using it as a stepping stone, not just because they're gonna come here, and I'm not saying like, oh, they're gonna become better, but their name is gonna be out there much more.
Yep.
It's not so saturated, and then let's say you have a goodish season, okay, then you might have more options, and then move on to a European side. So yeah, I love that. That's the thing where a lot of people, sure, we have like the older guys, yeah, all right, fine,
Yeah.
but the
Well, yeah.
younger
But
guys
when
are,
we say older now,
yeah,
now players play until they're 38. So if you get
right.
a 34-year-old,
Exactly. Yeah, 34, 35, that for sure. And that's going to show experience, and these guys are still fit or whatever. So I love that. And then when you have those stepping stone players, some of them, it's kind of funny to see a couple of them like say no to clubs in Europe. Then you're kind of like, oh, what is he doing? They're waiting for their time for a bigger club or whatever. But yeah, hopefully more MLS fans are seeing that, because sometimes there's too much noise and people kind of ignore like the actual good things that are happening. And I think that is a good thing, that okay, now we got players from Brazil that are going to go play in Orlando just as they got a season in Orlando, get their name out there, and then go to Europe or whatever, or stay. There's still some players that are going to stay and maybe go back to Brazil but for a better team and play for
yeah,
Flamengo or Palmeiras or something like that. So yeah, I think there's a bright side to that. It's just there's so much noise with all these other big names that are kind of hot drowning all the rest of it.
yep, can't complain about it. And after Kansas City beat St. Louis out
Uh-huh.
of the playoffs, unfortunately, I did see that Kansas City do have quite a few, European younger players that probably don't get,
Right.
the glamorous titles like everyone gets. So
Sure. Yeah,
I'm
like in Dembe, this
yes,
Belgian
that's the
player.
one I was.
Oh, really? Yes.
Was it on the 23 Belgium? I was like,
Yeah. Yep.
how,
Just
like,
this
no
guy.
one said his name?
Yes, I know. I thought exactly what you were saying, like kind of like a little bit of a diamond in the rough where you're like, what the heck? This guy just popped off out of nowhere. Even some of the older players, like, Gadi Kinda was just
Yes.
losing his, like, he was just playing stupid during that. And now he's gone
Yep.
back to Israel, but
Back home, yeah.
yeah, back home. And I think there are players like that, because here's the other thing: you guys, like, you have João Klaus, that is a player that is not like a 22-year-old or whatever, but he's like
Yep.
25. He's not old or whatever he is. He just looks older than he looks.
Well,
I don't know
yeah,
how he's my age, but he's old. He looks so much older than me.
I
Uh,
think he's pulling the whole LeBron thing when,
right.
LeBron looked like he was 34 when he was 18 in high
Yeah,
school.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
but that guy obviously
Yes.
a baller. So
Yep.
another name that, like, before MLS, like, no one knew who this guy was, is some random dude. And that's like the great pull, and low key, that's kind of like where the Midwest sits. Like, we like those type of
Yes.
players. And
The-
then those players just have a good game again. Let's say you do all right throughout the regular season, you get in the playoffs, and then
Mhm.
those older players on the East Coast and West Coast might not show up a certain game, and then you could knock them out or whatever. Just kind of like the Crew, they were just cruising.
Just cruising.
Yeah, exactly. No pun intended.
Oh, well, yeah, I
Right.
didn't even see that one. So what would you say is another rivalry that you see, outside of St. Louis? One that kind of gets you excited when you say, "Hey, SKC is playing
Oh
such."
yeah, sure. I mean, for before St. Louis, it was always RSL because Salt Lake and Kansas City had an MLS Cup final in 2013.
Okay.
It was like a controversial one for on our RSL side, and it was like at our house, so it was a big memorable one for us and our second
Mhm.
one. And that ever since then it started. I mean, there was like fights and red cards and just hot headedness. And it kind of went away, but the funniest thing is every time we face each other, it just comes right back. It just like the
Yep.
memories flood back, the memes come in and out. And I love playing RSL, and it is kind of weird that now that we have St. Louis, that's the more obvious rivalry, like just from distance and everything. But RSL is always a one that I love. The weird one is like when MLS said that our rival is like Minnesota, like they just invented a rival. It's a big thing that even I think even in that video that I made like 3 years ago, that bothered me. A lot of it seemed like corporate-y, like you can't tell us who we're
You
not
can
supposed
really
to
feel,
like.
yeah.
Like, come on, Minnesota. I've never even thought about Minnesota in my life, and now I have to hate them or whatever. But yeah, so it was always RSL, always. And I know it's funny because everyone always has a second. I think like St. Louis might be Chicago. There's always like this Chicago, Illinois, Missouri thing.
At least their fans are trying.
Right.
Yes.
They try.
Yes,
That's
because
true.
we just saw the whole leak of their jersey,
Right.
possible jersey,
Yes.
and I saw a few tweets that said, "Hey, STL, this is the real red."
Right.
We're
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah, we're like, nice try. Come on.
Yeah, it's gonna be really hard for Chicago fans to talk any smack. I think for a while, they got a lot of problems to work on. I
Well,
don't
they
think
beat us
right.
twice
That is the
last year, so
weirdest
that's
thing,
why.
and that's what happens. It's like you guys could be the dominant team for like 99% of the season, but then you lose to that same team twice, and they piss you off. And I think it's the same thing with Austin. I don't know if you guys beat Austin twice, or I think you gave them the
Yeah,
first win. You guys first
yes,
that was your first win, right, or whatever.
yes.
So
This one was the fun. This one was the funniest one that happened though, because I watched Austin TV also.
sure, yeah,
Since we were brand new, I was just watching, and then all of a sudden I heard their entire crew. Since their last season was so great,
right,
and we were hearing like 7-0, 8-0s, and they were saying,
right,
"Oh, St. Louis is going to be dead last." So I think
right,
entire city of St. Louis kept that receipt,
right.
and at the end of that game, everybody
Yeah, and it was
cashed out.
flipped. It was very flipped. I
Yeah,
mean, obviously, you guys came out running. Austin, I mean, went from a season where they were in like the conference
yeah.
championship to out of the playoffs and all that. So, yeah, that's the thing where I don't know if I hate that about MLS or like it because when I was younger, I liked it because it was like you never know. And
Mhm.
then as you get older, you're kind of like, I never know what to expect every weekend. And as a team that like usually doesn't do good, you're just
Right.
like, yeah, we're gonna suck. I don't know. At some point, we're gonna suck at some part of the season. And for Sporting, it was the whole first 3 months.
Yeah.
And then you guys cruised all the way to the playoffs. So you just never know here.
That's where I had my first real American sports American disaster
Sure.
year,
Yeah.
and that's why since I've mostly lived in France and Europe,
Yeah.
playoffs is not it.
Right. Yeah.
So now
That's fair.
seeing that we played Kansas City so many times, what, 5 times,
Yeah, for real.
and Kansas City is like all of a sudden, hey, the playoffs are coming. Now let's play
Right.
soccer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
I know.
after
It
that, it's
was
like the hottest team. It's like,
Yeah, that is the thing. It is weird, especially for European or South American fans that never experience what a playoff is at all. Like they don't understand other than maybe a big cup competition,
yep,
like a Champions League or whatever. When you work so hard for again 90% of the season and then it's playoff time and then you get kicked out your first game, it is the worst feeling. There's no feeling like because I feel like you were a champion for like 6 months and
yep.
then your seventh month you just crash out. It is horrible. It's not even like you lose the title over several weeks. It's a weird feeling to explain. But once you're here and you get it, it definitely gets addictive because then you could be the other team where
Yes.
you suck 90% of the season, barely get in, and then flip the script.
Yeah, and you can see definitely have that upper hand now for quite a
But hey,
while,
we
I
got
guess.
3 games again, and then maybe we'll see each other again in the playoffs. Hopefully, if we're both in the playoffs, it's just, dude, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be nuts.
So how do you feel about seeing um a team that many times? I don't like it.
Me
because
either.
it's like it's so repetitive, and you
Yes.
know, and of course Peter Vermeil out coached Cornell because
Sure.
he showed him, he's like, oh, we're gonna play 3 times against each other.
Right.
He pretty much did his homework from there.
Right.
So
Yeah, and
how do you
it,
feel
it
about
is a
that one?
good thing. Yeah, and like when it comes to playoffs, it's kind of nice-ish because your coaching staff, the fans, you could break down each game and look
Mhm.
at what worked, what didn't work. But because this sport, like any sport, is so like it's just whatever the momentum is, like Sporting picked up momentum. It's not like we didn't like recreate our team, we didn't get new signings or whatever. It's like momentum came right at the most perfect time and then it screwed over St. Louis. Like you guys were just kind of like
Yeah, we were
drifting,
cruising
just
towards
total.
the end. Yeah.
Exactly, it was like fine, whatever. We're just getting in the playoffs, no
Mhm.
big deal. Um, and that's where it really hit. So yeah, we see you guys 3 games. So then let's pretend St. Louis murders us all 3 games, and then somehow again St. Louis finishes second and we finish seventh or whatever it's gonna be. And then we play each other again. It's like you can never be like we'll be fine. We'll be
Yeah.
just fine. It's 3 or it's 2. I don't know. Hopefully they don't do that again. Just do it 1 game, please.
Well,
But
hey,
just
they're
1
they're
game.
catching checks, so
Yeah, I know. That's true. They are getting their money, but it's gonna be interesting. That's another thing. It's like it could have been 3 games and then maybe just 1 playoff game, and maybe your coach would have seen that way differently and done different things. And Peter too. Maybe he would have been like way more,
right.
defensive or whatever. But then when you have 2 games in the playoffs in the first round, it's like, dude, there's so much room for error. Your guys could dip your heads, and then it becomes a problem. I don't know. Last season, especially for St. Louis, it was like the worst season to come in because of that crazy playoff situation and how they play in 2 games, blah blah blah.
Yeah, and
But
especially when you have, and then there's the player mentalities. Like you could definitely see Kansas City had players that been in that situation.
yeah,
You have the
true,
European guys; they know it's like, hey, I'm gonna save my body for 7 months.
right,
But
true.
these guys here, they're like, oh,
They're
hey,
ready
you
to
know what?
show.
Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. But even though like, hopefully you guys don't have like a completely different squad, which most likely not.
Nope,
Um,
we're all
So I think that experience is gonna show them like, okay, at halfway through the season, this is where you need to be
yeah.
physically. Then you get into October time, that's where you need to be. It's just when you go in your first round. It would have been crazy. I don't know how many teams like really had a season like that and like won a cup. I just know like Seattle has a famous story where they were like the worst team,
Mhm.
turned it around and went ahead and won it. I don't know if that might be the only time that it happened. But it's so hard to switch. But a lot of it is like, yeah, are you physically ready? Are you mentally ready? Right around that time. If you're not, you could have the best players in the damn MLS, which is the same thing why I don't think Inter Miami's gonna do well. It's like these guys don't know. Like these guys aren't ready. Not like, oh, we're the best league and hardest league in the world. It's just different, and it's gonna be a weird thing for them. Let's say if they're good, they're not gonna be ready for that switch. I don't think, in my opinion.
Yeah, and as long as they keep making them travel all over the globe,
Oh my god, dude.
um,
What a
yeah,
joke. Yeah, I know. I agree.
their body was to get the real jet lag. Now they're in Saudi Arabia, and then they have to come across the world back to here.
Dude.
Um, so talk about Miami then, because
Yeah.
it has how I will put it lightly, your goat.
Right. Sure, sure.
I'm still
What are you
I
at?
yes. So for me, I know Messi is like your ultimate. I
Sure.
think for me, I call it almost generational
Yeah,
goats,
sure. I agree
because
with
for me
that.
it's kind of hard to kind of say, hey, he's the greatest of all time. I'm like,
Yeah. Oh, I'm there.
it's kind
I'm
of
right
hard to
there.
quantify it.
Yep. I feel the same. So
So,
who's your generation? You like Zidane? I'm gonna
yeah,
Zidane would be your boy.
Zidane.
Yep. Okay.
That's yeah. So I think in a in almost Zidane is like a different generation than
Yeah.
Messi. Pretty
Yeah.
much, I
Yeah.
saw him. So
Yeah.
for me, Zidane, that generation, he was it.
Yeah. For sure.
And he was literally carrying France to the World Cup and the
Yeah.
Euros by himself.
Yeah.
In those the GOAT ultimate, it's almost like Pele for me was
Right.
like the guy that literally everyone that we say, hey, you're a soccer player, their top will have Pele in it.
Right. Yeah.
But Messi will definitely be the one that's this generation of players.
Sure.
Yeah, he's the God given talent GOAT.
Right.
And Ronaldo is the one that out hustle worked harder than anyone else.
Right.
GOAT. So that's how I put those two guys in the GOAT conversation. Is like Messi just was born with all of that,
Right.
and Ronaldo had to outwork pretty much everybody else.
Okay. I'll take it.
Fair enough.
Look. I'm not going to agree. Look, I think this. I say this. When I say best player, like Zinedine Zidane was like, I'm amazed. I mean, I only know about him because of my older brothers. Like he won the
Yeah.
World Cup the year I was born, so I don't
Uh,
know from watch. I just know
You,
highlights.
yeah, you just
It's
maybe aged like
uh,
a
yeah, I
thousand
know.
year.
I get it. But with him, that guy is unbelievable. And then it's like before, like yeah, I didn't grow up with Diego, but for like the 9 years that he was like on top of the world, that was him. Pele for the 9 years he was on top of the world during. I would do it in that segment. But here's the difference. I think with those players and Ronaldo, I think like if I had, it's so unlucky for the world that we had Messi and Ronaldo, or lucky, I guess, depending on how you see it, at the same time. Because 10 years from now, let's pretend Ronaldo comes up, then he would have his own era. But because they're
Yep.
at the exact same time, it's hard. People just choose sides or whatever. I don't know. If I took Argentina hat off, I would want the guy who could dribble better. That's
That's
clear,
Messi.
Messi.
Yep.
I would like, then if you're like, I want a guy that can just finish. You get Ronaldo. He's that dude will finish from anywhere. Free kicks is hard too. You just got to go here and there. I think towards the end of Messi's career, I would go Messi, but Ronaldo used to be just bomb it in and he would murder you.
I'll
In
put
the air,
Beckham on that one.
oh, yeah, for sure. Beckham
Yes.
would be the guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
the guy that literally could bend it. So for
Yes.
sure. From the air, I would go Ronaldo. But then if it's like, do I want somebody that could control the field and make passes? Then I would go Messi. It's
Messi. Yep.
so hard to do that. So like if someone says, my goat is Ronaldo, it's not like an offensive thing. I'm not. Yeah,
Nope.
sure. It's like, what is your play style? What do you like to see? I get it. There'd be no way. So the best thing I like to see is when people put like their greatest of all time starting 11s. I love that.
Yes.
Because then you could break it down by position and eras, and that's really fun to do. And yeah, of course, you got, obviously Zinedine is up there, and obviously for me at least, he's up there. Then Pele will always be there. Diego will be there. Messi, Ronaldo, they'll be there. It's just like you got to put them in their spots, and goalkeepers and all that. So I think the debate is silly, but it's just because we got them at the same time. If we could spread them out, it would be more chill. I would like Ronaldo a little bit more. Also, I will say, here's my final note on the conversation. Just Ronaldo is, attitude-wise, he just is so, I don't know, douchey to me that it's hard for me to like him. Like, even when I'm like, man, he played good today, it's just, he doesn't have to be so rude, where Messi, 99% of the time, until the very last year or two of his career, was this quiet little guy, shy dude, awkward on TV, refused to do interviews. And I just like that on that side. But then inner Kevin likes Diego because he was annoying, in your
Yes.
face, loud, said whatever he wanted to. So it's, I don't know. It's just pick your day and I'll choose a different guy.
Yeah, and I think that's it. And that was the debate, and I always laugh about it.
Yeah.
Because and I think if you watch, it almost depends on the age.
True.
If you see
Yeah.
the younger generation below us, Messi, because that's all you know, that's all you see.
Yeah.
So that debate is always just depending on where you grew up, who you watch. Because Zidane for us was it, and then you start growing up, you see
Yeah.
who it is. So that's why I always laugh.
It's cool to see Zidane was talking about, guy. It's so funny because he was talking about players that he grew up watching. I can't remember, and he had this interview and he said, "Well, I was watching I can't remember his name, an Argentinian player." And when he was talking to Messi, I don't know if you saw that interview. It was
Yes.
Zidane. Yeah, I don't remember who he brought up, but that shocked me. I was like, "What the heck?" And there's a lot of players where you see they're like, "Yeah, I wanted to be like this guy in France that you maybe never heard of," and you're like, "What the heck? That's so random." But to them, in that position, that's who they wanted to be. And then obviously he was just so much better. But it's like so interesting that even players have their eras where maybe if you ask, Zidane right now, he would be like, I don't know what he would say. He would probably say something funny like, "I think I'm the best," or something like that, just knowing him.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't say that. He's almost like Messi.
Right. A
when
little more humble.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's why I like him a lot. That's why he, to me, is just, it's hurt because he coached around Madrid and he went against
Sure.
Messi many times. But when he was like away from that, or even before that, dude, like it was impossible for me not to like him. He was just so cool.
All right, so you compliment French players, so that
Hey,
that
come
never
on, come
hurts.
on. Of course. The thing is, you make it more difficult because you're a PSG fan. That's the only thing that's
S-
hard
uh,
for me.
So circling back, so why the
Okay, I'll say why.
yeah?
I'll say why.
Except the Messi, is it more
No, no, it's not the
Messi
Messi thing.
related?
No, it's not the
Okay,
Messi thing. So like the before all that, before Messi, because that was so goofy anyways. I think it started ish
okay,
around the time where you had like the oil money takeover, where you
hmm
had more, because obviously PSG is like a newer ish team, like they from the 70s, and they merged
yes,
two teams together, whatever. Um, so after that, it was kind of like Marseille. I know I'm gonna say something very scandalous, but Marseille was like these giants. They had like all this history, blah blah blah. And then when PSG started coming up, then they grabbed when they got Neymar. That's where I was kind of like, what's going on? Like, what's happening here? It was crazy amount of
right,
money and all this stuff. It was like the start, like before City got me mad. It was like
mhm,
PSG. I'm like, God, like you guys have so much money, you can grab whoever, blah blah blah. And that's where it started for me. Like that, where it is like City now. City back then, before this takeover, was like whatever team. It was a
yeah,
cool
it was the
British
nosy
team.
neighbor, yeah,
But now they're like, everybody rolls their eyes because like, damn, they had all this money, they have the best coach in the world, they got all these good players, blah blah blah. And it's like hard not to it's hard to follow them and support them because of that. So I think PSG with that. The other thing, with me, it's hard because I think the whole situation with the ultras, even with Neymar before Messi joined, you guys went to a final and lost, or semifinals and lost. It was like a big deal, and it was hard because that's what PSG needed. They just wanted that. And you guys are in a league where PSG dominated. Like you guys
yeah,
are
which
like
is
the Dortmund, you are sorry, Dortmund. You guys are like Bayern Munich, where you dominate every season in
in
your
recent
country.
recent
In
years,
recent years, yes.
yes,
So that's where I was like, okay, so they're kind of over it. They just want this one thing. And I've been this really big fan of Neymar. So then when I started hearing, ultras boo him or whistle him or sing songs against him, I was like, no, like how could they do this? And then when Messi came, I'm like, oh, they're never gonna do that. Like, no, they will never do that. I know, especially how people were celebrating, and you had all the people in their damn scooters following his car,
yep,
into the stadium. I was like, oh, this is finally Messi feels better. The Barcelona owner or the president is an absolute moron, and I was happy that he was there. Genuinely, I have a PSG jersey in my closet.
that's
I was
awesome.
happy. I thought he was gonna retire there. I was like, oh, this is, or like finish most of his career and then go to Argentina. That was literally my thing. I had no problem with it. But then it was like more of the issues with the ultras, and I already know from some PSG fan friends that I have.
Mhm.
I think the ultras are already a problem. Like even before this, they've had issues, and people, like a lot of people hate them because of so many problems. They
Oh,
get bans. They have half the stadiums empty because of them or whatever. And
oh,
so really, it's
I
not
lived it.
PSG, but it's them.
I Yeah, and that's when I was a little surprised. Because I'm a born and raised PhD fan,
Right.
so that's
Okay.
where I grew up. And Parc des Princes was really 15 minutes from my house.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, so I watched it, and even before the takeover, so they were a big team.
Yeah.
Like Marseille for
Sure.
us, the PSG Marseille is so big
Yes.
that they have to deploy police
Yeah. Oh yeah.
from
Oh
both
yeah.
cities to go in there.
It's a Boca
It
River of
Yeah,
France for sure.
yeah,
Like big classical. Yeah.
and yes, and those ultras, I lived it firsthand. So yes, they're very how we will call them
I
is
think it's good to be passionate, but like even in South
no, they're
America,
beyond.
yes, I agree. Yeah.
It's beyond racist and all. So
Yes,
yes, so
sure,
I
sure.
lived it lived hand.
Yeah.
And I was quite surprised too that they turn on all the players. But I think
Yeah.
they have is the Champions League. That's
Yeah.
like the missing piece of PH's complete history.
Yep.
And Marseille has one.
Right.
So that's the
It's
black
the
eye of
annoying thing.
PH. Yes.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
every time we're talking to Marseille fans, hey, we want X, we want this and that. All
Yeah.
they do is lay back and go Champions League, and then the whole
Exactly.
conversation's
It's
over.
over. I get that. I absolutely get that. And that
Yeah.
that is the reason where, like, even after the PSG thing, or when Messi left or whatever,
Mhm.
I was like, okay, well, now that he's gone, maybe things will calm down. It just seemed like it got worse, and then you had to get a new coach and all this stuff. It's like, God, it just so much noise is happening that
Champions League.
it's yeah,
Once
Champions League is
Champions
everything.
League, once they get it, things will calm down
Calm
a
down.
little,
I
and
agree.
that's why Mbappe is still there and they're throwing every
Yeah,
100 billions to
this
him.
is
It's
I don't
for
know
that.
how this has got to be the season. If it's not here,
Oh, he's
Mbappe
gone.
he's gonna go
Yeah.
to Real Madrid or wherever. Look,
I
if
think
he goes to
he's gone.
Liverpool, that would be nice. Come on,
No,
give
no,
me Kylian. Why
no.
not?
They're working on that Galactico,
Yeah,
and
it
they
didn't
literally
work before. I mean, it barely worked the first time. So come
well,
on,
but now they're hiring all French guys, so they
true.
know what's in the water.
Yeah, true. And they got they got freaking that Brazilian next Pelés.
Yeah.
They could be
See,
nasty. They got
so they're
Vini.
literally picking France. They're just putting France and Brazil
Yeah, all together.
in there, and then it's like, hey, now
Yeah.
get us one.
Yeah. Now,
And
if
I
it
think,
fails, just say it. If it fails, we might see like a world war or something.
well, clearly they have the money or don't
Oh
have the
yeah,
money, and they still
they got it. They got it.
awesome. So I guess on the lighter side of things now, since you're a busy person, we'll try to get you out of here.
Sure.
So if you were to build just the perfect soccer player,
Mm-hmm.
and you had 5 to pick from any generation, who would that
Yeah.
be?
Oh. Oh. Okay.
So we'll make it easier for you. So if you were to pick for dribbling, we already know who you're going to say for.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Messi for dribbling for sure. I think.
And goals.
Ooh, God, I don't want to say something horrifically bad. Okay,
And
this
it's
is what
being recorded.
I know. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. Okay, if I'm gonna say dribbling, I'm gonna go Messi. That's an easy one. Like if there was a stat for toughness, I'm just gonna add this in there. I would just a little stat toughness. I would put Diego just because of that era, or anyone from like the 80s and 70s where they were just murdering each other.
Right.
You could pick any player out there, but I would put Diego just bias.
Maradona.
Yeah, Maradona
Okay.
would be just like physicality was a nightmare, but God, an aerial presence like heading, striking the ball. I'm not even just saying this because you're here. I think I said this in the last podcast because I like him a lot.
Yeah.
But Zinedine Zidane, with that bald head, okay, and the way he could hit the ball pretty much at any angle and bend it and power, that he is the Finnish goat to me. That's in my opinion.
And
That's
if you're
what I think.
Italian, he'll headbutt you too.
And
So
if you're Italian, he's right there. Look, boom, like
boom.
he's a threat on the field. I think if you want to show people what it's like to be like the scariest dude in a box, that man, or even outside the box, that man is the guy for sure, 100%. Anyone who's watching this and have not seen his highlights, just go on YouTube. I guarantee you're gonna be like, Jesus Christ! Like '98 World Cup. I look there were some good players on that French team. That man literally carried them, and they had to play monsters in the '98 World Cup. Monsters.
Yep. At Brazil, they
Brazil,
had
that
the
was
best
a
generation.
stupid Brazil, a very stupid one. That the next World Cup they got. So
but trust me,
yeah,
all those French guys in that team,
yeah,
they all said like Zidane did it.
it's a guy
Yes, they're all kissing the ring.
for
They're
sure.
Like, even though we had literally the best players in the world in that team,
Yeah.
Zidane, that's
when did he finish football? Like when did he retire? 2007, 6?
So that was after the World Cup that we lost to Italy. So that
Italy,
was
6,
7 to that 7.
So 7, yeah, because that 2000, so that area there, I remember, like even like my older brothers tell me, like this guy is like, I mean, I didn't see him in his prime, but like knowing that even at his age, I mean, that World Cup could have gone so many different ways,
That was just a headbutt.
Yes, and it
Clearly
flipped.
Yes, the only thing that happened is he got the red card, and then David Trezeguet went and missed it.
That's
which
another
was
guy.
his.
Trezeguet is a guy that I watched who I love, and Argentina fans,
He's Argentine. He's half Argentine.
And just like Higuain, sometimes you have those situations where you're like maybe you're born in France, but you play for Argentina, or born in Argentina, play for France. There's a history between our countries, and Trezeguet was always a guy that my family said we wish that dude played for us because he was a baller. Another
Yeah.
bald guy, okay, that could play pretty good. That's
He
when he
was
was
just
older.
born the wrong generation.
Yes,
If he
yeah,
was
he
born one
missed.
generation before or after, he would
Yes,
have been one of our top
I
strikers.
agree. Totally agree. He was in the awkward era of
Yes.
French football for sure. That guy. Oh my
So
god, I
that's
totally forgot about him when you mentioned him. Yes, I love
there you
him
go.
so much. And plus, and Riva he played,
Yeah.
and he is like, did he play in Marseille?
Who?
Trezeguet? Do you
Oh, that's a
remember?
good one.
I don't
I
remember
might have to double
where in
check that
France
one.
did he play. I can't remember, but yeah, he was
I remember just his Juventus days where
right.
he was killing it.
Yeah, Juventus is what you pretty much he's known
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. But yeah, wow, I gotta
So you
go look
got
at his
three.
highlights.
So you got three.
I got three. God, okay. Oh,
Two more. They can be all French if you like to.
nah. Chill. Okay, it's hard not to say. Okay, the creativity, the way he played, he invented create. In my opinion, creativity in football. Who's not going to put Pele? I mean, when you a psychopath, you're not going to put Pele creative
Yep.
wise. So that's an easy W right there.
Yep.
And I have a buddy, and this is gonna hurt me to say, but I have a buddy from Germany that for like since I was in middle school told me that Beckenbauer was the greatest player of all time, right? And I'm like, okay, buddy, like, all right,
Hmm.
rolled my eyes. And I would watch a highlight here and there, maybe watch a documentary, and like, okay, he was pretty good. But that guy was so disgusting that this final spot would be between him and I'm gonna cheat a little bit and Cruyff. I'm a little biased with Cruyff because Cruyff started. I almost put him in like because of the coaching side. Where I'm like,
Yep.
well, he became such a good coach and invented like basically what we know as like
Why
tiki
Barcelona
taka.
and
Yeah, what
Netherlands? Yeah.
Barcelona became, which eventually Messi grew up in and whatnot. So it's hard not to have him. So I'm gonna cheat and put both of those guys. But like those guys were
I'm
just geniuses on the field. Like they found space, they knew where to pass. They already knew where a guy was going before they would even make the run. They would send the ball. The guy was there, perfect. It's
Yep.
like in American view, it's like a really good quarterback that threw the ball, knows where that guy's gonna run. Those two guys are the best to do it. And the Beckenbauer is always hard for me to admit a German is good, but
I,
he was nasty. That guy.
I will take that one too.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that's kind of missing now these days in world soccer.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, where a player just puts the ball in a place and he knows that his teammate's going to be there.
Yeah.
Um, I think he's like so technical now these days
Yes.
that we have 1,500 passes before
Yes.
it gets to the other goal.
Well, did you see? Like, I don't know. This is like perfect timing for this, but like a couple days ago, the coach of Argentina was saying that the younger generation of players are kind of screwed because they're told not to dribble. They're told to pass it
Yes.
quickly. They're told to make certain runs. And he straight up said, like, you're telling a 7-year-old to make a diagonal run, track back, make a quick pass. And he said, like, imagine telling Messi or Maradona, or all these guys that dribble, to not dribble, to just pass and be technical. And it's hard because even those guys that we just mentioned, Beckenbauer and Cruyff, like yeah, they were technically smart, but dude,
Yep.
the guys were geniuses. They knew when to hold the ball, find the space, then make a nice pass, make a run 90% of the field, then find the pass.
But
It's so weird that it's turning that way. But one guy that is still, I think, good, and it's like surprisingly, that's why a lot of people are showing that he's the best in the world right now. Kylian does do that. He runs, he makes a great pass. Even if he's doing dummy runs, he'll do that all day long just to make space. And at whatever he is, 24. I don't know how young he
I
is.
think he just turned 24, which
Yeah,
is
with
madness.
stupid age. He to me like the debate is like right now is like Haaland and him, and it's him not even close. I no disrespect to Haaland, but I think Kylian is the best in the world, and then there's like a giant gap, and then Haaland. It's just if I could choose one of the players, I would put Kylian all day. Forget the World Cup, forget all that. That guy is just an overall better player at this age. Like Haaland could get better for sure in the next several years, but it's like
Yeah, but
Kylian got a head
you
start.
cannot coach or speed.
Right. Yes, that's
It's like
true. Kylian is he's a monster. He is built like a machine. And even after the World Cup, plenty of Argentinian fans were like, I mean, that guy was exactly like what Zidane did, but it just got short because of penalties. He just carried that French team. Even though you guys had Griezmann and all these other guys, they weren't showing up that final. It was
Oh,
the Kylian Mbappe final. It was just that close from just being his dominant performance, and that
oh,
is how it shows that he's the best player in the world right now for sure.
they showed it because they showed in the locker room.
Oh
He pretty
right,
much was
he was
telling
screaming
everybody
at
it ain't over.
yeah. Deschamps
Yeah,
was just standing there and he was letting
yeah.
Kylian yell.
Yes, and I think, and just to close out on
Yeah.
that part, I was watching that final. I was at my daughter's swim meet,
Oh
so I
wow.
had my laptop on my lap. I was watching it, I had the jersey on,
Yeah.
and I can tell you, everybody that was around me
Yeah.
was just looking at me like I was crazy
Oh,
because
I
my
know.
face for like 80 minutes, there was no expressions.
Yeah,
There
for
was two
sure.
people that knew me,
Yeah.
and they were like, he's watching the game, and they were like, we're not going to bother you
Man, I
because
mean,
they knew the score.
who puts a swim meet on the World Cup final? I mean, come on.
Yes.
What the heck, man?
And they were just looking at me, and every time I was like, yes. And
That's awesome.
they
I love
left
that.
me alone for almost 15 minutes after because they're like, yeah, we know what he's watching.
Oh
It's like,
God, that's the thing. This time was the first time I ever watched like a final, especially an Argentinian final alone. Like every year I would go with people, but because we lost so many, that when you're around people, it's the worst feeling. Even if it's people that
are
don't
you
really
okay?
care. Yeah, it's like, hey, you good? It's like obviously
Yeah,
not, and I'm not gonna
yeah.
be good for years. So leave me alone. And I think I recommend for the Euros and the next World Cup that if you get to a final, don't be around people because even I'm going to tell you something. If you are because I was alone with my wife at the time in the final, it was almost a totally different experience because if you win, you win, you're crying, you're freaking out, and then you go party. You don't got to
Yeah.
party right there, all right? I'm telling you because the worst part is you're in front of 1,000 French fans and you're like, okay, France is gonna win the Euros. Let's go, and then you guys lose in penalties or whatever it is. Then you're in around 1,000 French fans, and let's say you guys played England. Then you're gonna interact with the English fans, and nothing's gonna go well. All right, that's speaking from experience.
Yeah, England is not going to win it. Well, I
Nah,
guess
nah,
it's
nah,
the
nah.
Euros. They might win that one,
Nah,
but
they're not even gonna win that. There's one thing we both could agree on, and that it's never coming home, Mo. It's
no.
never coming home.
No. And the day it happened, I hope I will be 6 feet on the ground. 'Cause
For sure, yeah.
they,
I hope my kids have to see it, not me.
yes,
Let them deal with that. I
that
agree.
I think that's even better.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, if you don't, yeah, if we don't, if I didn't have to win it in the rest of my life, I don't. Argentina just never wins it again. My other World Cup would be England never winning it. That would be it. I know, but come on, they won one. Let's give them that. Uh oh. Yeah, I mean, so there's the watch alongs are coming back. I got right now because we just got the NWSL schedule. I'm watching the women's game, sporting. Some of the games overlap, and some of the games have too much of a gap in between where I'm just gonna have to choose, which one. Maybe if there's a stronger matchup, I'll watch that one. So there's gonna be a good 35 weeks of plus playoffs of just watch alongs. In between there, I'm gonna do more traveling. The whole idea this year is to try to get to away games. It would be nice to go to St. Louis and whatnot. I'm in this like nightmare situation with moving, but once that clears down and things get calmed a little bit, I want to like go experience what it's like to be away. And I'm going to say this, I've never been to an MLS away ever, like physically been. So it's time. I have to do it. If I can't talk crap about people's fans if I've never been to their stadium, so I got to do it. But that's it. Hey, let's go. Hey, I thought you guys would put me with the dogs or something, but okay, I'm good. A real chair.